my husband wanted to leave me for a guy, I would be more acceptable for that than him leaving me for another woman that have the same thing I have. Like, what are you about to do with her that you can't do with me?
Knowing this show, they could make Ali relapse.
The guy is hypnotic. I don't know what it is about this actor, but like every time he speaks, I'm like in a daze.
I think that they are definitely gonna have a threesome.
With throuple situations or polygamous relationships, you tend to set up certain rules and certain expectations and things of that nature, and you all communicate throughout.
Are you speaking from experience?
Maybe.
Aisha, you said you've never seen so much penis?
In my lifetime?
Hey, that was your quote, not mine. Welcome everyone, I'm your host, William Yelton, and today we will be talking with 9 strangers who have just finished watching the season 2, episode 3 of Euphoria for the first time. Tonight, we hear these Euphoria superfans' raw reactions as they debate, review, and analyze the episode. At the end of the discussion, each panelist will rank the episode 1 to 10, and I will average up the results to give this episode the official rating provided by you, the men and women of this panel. I hope you at home will join us for this conversation. In the description below, there are time codes to our discussion. Also, there is a sign-up link available if you would like to be a future panelist. If you like what you see tonight, please click that like and subscribe button. It isn't easy to wrangle people every week, so any support is greatly appreciated. With all that said, without further ado, I present to you this episode of Who Needs a Film Critic? So let's get right into the conversation. The episode began with a Cal flashback sequence where we found out a lot about the character. Were you surprised by what we learned? Let's start there. You should all see a poll question on your screen. After seeing Cal's flashback, have you changed the way you view the character? Please click yes or no, and then we will analyze the results. 33% of you said yes, that you have changed the way you view Cal, while 67%, 6 out of 9, say no. So let's hear from the people that said yes first. Raise your hand if you were someone who said yes, that you changed the way you view the character of Cal. You have Gabby, Brendan, and Shahana. Shahana, why don't you start us off?
I felt like this backstory was just like he was in love with his best friend, you know? And I had a really good friend when I was growing up. She was a girl, and I swear, like, if I was attracted to girls, I'd probably marry her because it was just a good bond. Like, even when she was saying like they would hang out and they didn't even say anything to each other, even in silence they could hang out, and that's just a great place to be. And having to hide that from your whole family and having to go down a plan of, you know, getting caught with your dad in the room, and he says, "Get up," and he's like, "I can't right now," and I was like, oh my God. And like the dad's like, "Well, you were fine when I walked in." So I just felt really bad for him to have to like change his whole life because he knew his family wouldn't support him, and he had to let go of his best friend and come down and say, "Well, I think I have a girlfriend."
Now we're seeing his background and the events leading up to why he acts the way he acts with his own family. And back to that, like, even when he got like the phone call, like he and his friend went out, had this night, and then they, you know, came together and they found like, you know, oh, okay, yes, I like you, right? And then he goes home and he gets a call from his girlfriend and says, "Oh, I'm pregnant." And so he kind of had to like let that go, which was also, I felt really sad. I felt really sad for him. Like yeah.
He had just started to come into his own and, you know, figure out who he was going to be as a young adult. And he got like hit with this tidal wave of responsibility. Like, nope, you can't be who you just found out you want to be, because now you have to be a father and a husband, or, you know, a partner to this person.
And it seems like more people on this panel, obviously, based on the question, said that they did not change the way they view the character, which actually surprised me. So who wants to be the person in the room that speaks up as to why you don't really have a change of heart with Cal?
I know growing up back then, obviously, was different times with, you know, like coming out or like making sure that your family is more comfortable with you being gay and everything like that. But it's like he got to a point where he was finally an adult. And so he could make his own decisions without his parents possibly having any influence over that. So I don't really feel bad for him. It's just like oh, so sad that you couldn't be with Derek, but like I mean, go find Derek at this point. You married with 3 kids. Like, you could have got a divorce at this point if you really wanted to live in your truth.
As far as the being married part, I am married. So I said, if my husband wanted to leave me for a guy, I would be more acceptable for that than him leaving me for another woman that have the same thing I have. Like, what are you about to do with her that you can't do me? So honestly, he could have told his baby mama at the time, listen, I would help you take care of our child. I would support you, but I want to be with him. We can all raise him together. You know, let's all take care of this child together. Instead, he wants to go and just be fake. I didn't like it. I still don't like him. I don't feel sorry for him. Boo him.
Well, at least your husband has a hall pass to cheat on a guy.
Yeah, that's the only way he could cheat. Only way.
You heard it here, okay? You heard it here. Latoya gave her husband some permission.
Personally, I can say as someone who is bisexual, I feel like there's a lot of stereotypes of like bisexual people are more likely to like cheat on their partner or blah, blah, blah. So I just kind of felt like it was kind of playing into a bunch of negative stereotypes that exist. I also, and I mean, this is something I'm going to say is they did kind of leave it relatively ambiguous what his sexuality ultimately is, but it felt way too cliche and stereotypical to me. And it was not only a cliche and a stereotype, but a harmful one. So I don't think I gained sympathy for him just because I just did not like the whole segment.
I can empathize, whatever the case may be, around his whole sexuality and trying to navigate that world because it's complicated. But at the end of the day, you still promote toxic masculinity, like within your own family, and also how you promote yourself within your community. And you're recording people without their knowledge. Like, that's gross. As someone who is sex positive as well and it works in sex education, you know, I'm all about kinks, fetishes, and things like that, but I draw the line when it comes to recording without consent.
I feel like he's more reactive. Nate likes to cause shit. Cal reacts to the shit that happens to him, like with when he went to Fezco's place.
Sam, thank you for bringing up that scene. We're going to take a look and then we'll discuss.
Ow! I know you and your drug addict friend are trying to extort my son.
The fuck are you talking about, man?
You know, the blonde.
Who, Jules?
I didn't know she was 17.
You telling me you had sex with Jules?
I just want the disc.
Who the fuck even told you I gave a shit about this anyway?
My son.
Your son, the one that's in love with Jules?
Do you and your son, like, fuck people together?
I love that scene.
All right, Markeisha, why don't you just start us off then?
For one, to start off, every scene that Fez was in this episode, I giggled a lot. I chuckled. It's something about him that I really love. But Ashtray was such a boss, okay? He was such a boss. And what I love is we've seen Cal play this power trip on everything. Ashtray just like, I'm gonna pull your card because you're full of shit, all right? You're not calling the cops. I don't care what type of affiliations you have with the sheriff or anything like that. You're full of shit and I'm being your ass for it. Why are you here? Tell the truth.
It was like a beating after a beating after a beating. Like, it was crazy. I think he had a concussion. Like, I think Cal lost it. Like, he was hit in the head so many times that he just got confused and just started ratting it off. And like, Fez, man, like, it was so beautiful how he would like respond. He's like, what the fuck, man? Like,
I absolutely love this scene just because him and Nate both deserve to get their ass beat every last single time. So I'm always a fan of an on-site situation. And Faye, oh my gosh, I love Faye. I'm glad they're giving us these little tidbits of Faye because she just made that scene, like ending that scene so perfectly.
In my eyes, I kind of see this as maybe a turning point where Cal kind of turns on Nate a little bit. I know there's probably a line that he wouldn't cross with his son, but you know, his son is lying to his face, bringing these other people into a situation that they shouldn't be brought into. You know, Cal doesn't want more people to know about these tapes than already knows about it. And Nate's going around causing all kinds of issues for him.
If Cal became maybe more likable for some people during this episode, Rue, on the other hand, might be trending in the opposite direction. Let's take a look at this scene in particular and then discuss.
So, Rue, what's in the suitcase?
Shut the fuck up, man.
Excuse me? I'm not some parent you can just treat like shit.
Yeah, well, good thing nobody's really looking you to be a fucking parent.
Yo, excuse me? When I sit across from you and tell you something about my life, you didn't get to use that shit against me. One more fucking disrespectful word out of your mouth and we're done. You hear me?
Or what, Ali? You gonna hit me?
All right, who wants to start us out?
I'm all for her, but she ain't have to do that to my boy. Like, he done became my daddy on the show. How you acting like this? She needed to be, he should have took his belt off and, oh, I'll show you a parent, and beat her. That's what he should have did. He should have beat her right there. She needed her butt whooped.
It showed me how deep Rue was in as far as like this drug situation for me. And I think that's where it broke my heart, because we've seen times where usually when you become extremely disrespectful to the one person that's trying to help you, I mean, you are pretty deep in there. And that's when I said, wow, Rue is really deep in there. And that's why this scene really kind of got to me, where I was emotional just seeing it happen, seeing that exchange.
Ollie is obviously trying to help her, but she doesn't want to be helped. And you can't help a person that doesn't want to be helped.
It really broke my heart watching the scene, and I think I teared up, and I still teared up watching it again, because if you want to get rid of someone from your life, you hit them in their deepest wound, and that's what she did. She knew the two things that really broke his heart, he felt really bad about and couldn't get over, and she just brought those back. And it was so painful, because at that moment I knew that she doesn't plan to live that long. She buys that, what, $10,000 worth of weed. Right. And she's even offered what, 50,000 or 20,000? I don't know. She said like a big amount.
Let's go 10,000. Let's start smaller.
Yeah, let's start smaller, because she knows that she only needs at least 10,000. You know what I mean? And she goes home and she looks at, she has no friends that's going to help her sell it. She got it for her own, and she knows that if she doesn't give that money back, she's going to be sold. So her choices are die or be sold, because there's no way she's giving that money.
I love Ali as a character. He's probably like a top 3 character of mine. I think Ali is like the representation of the very end of the show, like where we all want Rue to be. And so every time we see him, we're kind of getting like this positive connotation. And then when she crosses that line, instead of getting more angry, he just says, all right, I'm done.
I feel like Ali would still come and try and help her, regardless of what she said to him.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is Ollie truly done with Rue?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think Ollie's going to have a big part in the end of the show.
Ollie's going to be around for a while, purely so that in season 4, when the show's going to end, Zendaya's character can get clean. And I don't know if that will be with Ollie's assistant or just seeing Ollie's reaction to her finally going clean. But I don't see the show ending any other way.
Knowing this show, they could make Ali relapse. Like,
I was just about to say that. Like, I hope he doesn't relapse.
Evil, man.
Yeah.
That's some hard shit to hear.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if he went down a spiral, but I feel like he's way stronger than that. But I mean, I've never been in that situation, and I've been through some shit, so I know that is triggering to hear something like that, because it's somebody holding up a mirror to you, you know, while you're trying to tell them like you need to get your shit together, and he still has stuff that's unresolved or stuff that's still on his mind. So hopefully he doesn't, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Last week, we talked about Rue and her newfound relationship with Elliot. But in this episode, we see a budding relationship between Elliot and Jules. What is happening here? While we chew on that question, let's take a look back at the final scene of the evening and then discuss.
I feel like Rue doesn't want to fuck me.
Why don't you think so?
She seems like asexual.
That's not true.
And lie to me and say she's some sexual force of nature.
She's not a sexual person.
I wouldn't blame yourself. It's like easy to take that kind of stuff personally. Because you're very fucking fuckable.
Why?
You're kind of fucked up, but you're cute and you're awkward. And you're like kind of clumsy, but you're very much a whore, which is hot. But I'm sure Rue told you all that. You guys are in love, right?
Shut up.
So what's going on with this storyline? Let's predict where the season is heading. I'm going to give all of you a few different storyline options, and I want you to put your writer's cap on. The question is, what is the show doing with the Elliot storyline? So A, setting up an Elliot and Rue romantic storyline. B, setting up Elliot and Jules' romantic storyline, C, setting up a threesome or a throuple storyline, or none of the above. So let's get the poll started. All right, one person out of the panel said setting up an Elliot and Rue romantic storyline. 3 people said setting up an Elliot and Jules romantic storyline. 4 people out of this panel said setting up a threesome or a throuple storyline, and 1 person said none of the above. Let's start with the 1 person that said none of the above. You're not buying any of this romantic crap.
The first time I watched it, I was like, God, he has everything on point. Like Elliot has been observing and watching and has picked up on all the things really, really well, right? But the thing is, he's being an asshole. Like he's totally putting doubt in Jules's mind that, you know, that she belongs with Rue, because it's like, oh, but you guys are in love, right? Like that last statement, like questioning it. And earlier, like he was talking to Rue about, you know, her relationship with Jules. So it's like he's putting doubt in both of their brains.
So wouldn't that mean that there is some sort of romantic storyline that's being plotted if he's trying to break apart the couple?
Yeah, but I don't think they're trying to get any of them together. They can't. Like you can't put doubt in that and then make that work.
Setting up the Elliot and Rue romantic storyline. Gabby, that was you, correct?
Yeah, that was me. Just because I feel like in the prior episode, like she was about to like legit like overdose, like her heart was dropping, and he like helped her out, and he was like freaking out, but at the same time like completely calm. And then legit they were hanging out at like almost every day after that because he'd give her like drugs, right? And it created like that relationship where she said like, I don't have to like fake myself when I'm around you type of a thing. I don't know. It was a hard question. I don't think it's going to be a threesome, but I don't know about Jules either.
The Elliot and Jules romantic storyline, raise your hand if you voted that way. All right, Sam, Markeisha, and Jack. Markeisha, why?
He asked those questions where Jules had to analyze her relationship with Rue, where she's like, okay, no, I'm not getting this out of Rue. Even when he brought up the asexual thing, like that kind of took me back for a loop because I actually never paid attention to the fact that the only thing she's sexual with or really in tune with is drugs. And that's kind of like what her relationship with Elliot for me was the connection with drugs. So regardless if Elliot has feelings for Jules, I think that Jules will grow feelings for Elliot.
I think Rue has her suitcase now, and I think she's on just a totally different like path right now. I think it's just going to push Elliot and Jules closer together because she's going to be trying to run her scheme and get her money so she's not kidnapped. So I think Elliot and Jules are going to have a lot of time together.
All right, now raise your hand if you said setting up a threesome or a throuple storyline. All right, Romeo, you brought it up earlier. You're a man that's approving of all sorts of kinks as long as you have permission. So what's going on here?
This is like the perfect setup to a throuple situation. Like on some real, like this is like you have already Jules and Rue together. Then you have Rue and Elliot together and they form this bond. And now we see Elliot and Jules forming this bond. And it's obvious that there's attraction on both levels. Like you could tell that Elliot's flirting with her. It's like, it's evident, or maybe I'm just attracted to assholes that I just look at that as flirting, but it's like, to me, it's clear that he's flirting with her and she's eating it up.
Was he being an asshole?
But he was, but that was cute. It was like a cute way. It wasn't like he was being an asshole. It was like, oh, you're an asshole.
Like flirtatious asshole.
He's hitting on one of his good friends' girl though. That's just wrong.
The guy is hypnotic. I don't know what it is about this actor, but like every scene I'm in, I'm just like, I feel like every time he speaks, I'm like in a daze. Like he's just so good at like, he's very calm, yet, and he listens and he's empathetic. Like he's just such an interesting character. Like
he's intuitive.
Yeah. He is.
I think that they are definitely gonna have a threesome. If you're looking at the entire show as a whole, right? And we're looking at the themes that we've seen, nudity is an enormous and a huge theme throughout the entire show. And who is like the one person, maybe 2 people that we have not seen anything nude from? It's Rue and it's Jules. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing or that like, you know, they need to be nude to have this threesome or whatever, but I think that there has been this like budding tension of, you know, now they're hooking up and Rue is starting to feel Jules up. And then you see them hooking up underneath Elliot's bed. And there's this budding tension of like, I want to take things further, but oh, we can't because Elliot's here. So I think that they are just hinting towards this is heating up. And I think if they were ever going to have the two main characters have a blowout sex scene, they would make it a threesome rather than two people. Why not take it to the next level?
I'm not even gonna hold my breath just because I follow Zendaya outside this show and she don't play shit like that. So I don't even think we're ever going to see her show anything explicit. We might just kind of see the beginning and then it might be confirmed that they did something. But the reason why I say I picked that it's a threesome, but like with a caveat, because I feel like there's some type of manipulation to his character outside of him just specifically hooking up with Jules or hooking up with Rue or hooking up with the both of them. Like there's something else that is mysterious about him that I feel like is going to be uncovered later in the season.
There's a shoe that's about to drop.
Yeah, I don't know what the ultimate motive is, but it's something else besides he just has feelings or likes them.
I have a question though. How does that work with the polygamy and open relationships, right? Like, because obviously Elliot and Jules are more sexual than Rue is. So if that was like a polygamy like relationship, that would cause issues, right? Because they don't all have the same interests, and two of them will go off on doing something together and the third one won't, will feel left out.
They're teenagers, so I doubt they will have that type of maturity when it comes to relationships, but just in general with throuple situation or polygamous relationships, you tend to set up certain rules and certain expectations and things of that nature, and you all communicate throughout and constantly are like evolving those communication and those rules, if you will.
Are you speaking from experience?
Maybe.
I'm like, he know too much about this one here.
I mean, I'm also a sex educator too. Like I work in a nonprofit talking about like sex health and making sure folks understand everything that it is about sex. And that's all the fun parts and also not so fun parts. But yes, I've had experience in a non-monogamous style relationship. And just throughout my experience, me and my partner really sat down and we constantly had conversations because things happened. We matured and changed as people, as we went throughout our relationship. And so it's all about communication and constantly having that communication. Don't think that it's a one and done type of conversation.
I've been hearing about the unicorns. I've been asked to be a unicorn plenty of times.
I am the unicorn prince. This is Princess Amada. This is just one of the many unicorns I have in my possession. Like, I love unicorns. I view myself as a unicorn. So like, thank you for saying that, because I mean, I can fit that description of a unicorn too, depending on the night. So yeah.
There's one more thing. It's called pineapples. If you put pineapples outside your door or on something, that just means couples inviting other couples over.
What the hell?
So
never heard of
You guys are exposing me to a whole new world.
Right?
And I thought I knew everything about sex.
All right. Well, there is only one thing left to do, and that is to review. Each of you has sent me your ratings for this episode, 1 to 10, 1 meaning you hated it, and 10 being you absolutely loved it. I've averaged all the numbers together, and it is time for me to reveal the results. Tonight, the panel has rated this episode as a 7.8.
I rated this episode a 4 just because I felt like a lot of the episode to me kind of felt like it came straight out of a student film. I felt like I've seen so many better episodes of Euphoria and even just so many better episodes of television. I just couldn't score this episode very high.
I gave the episode a 7. I really liked a lot of this episode. I loved the scene with Ali and Rue. I really liked the scene with Cal and Derek, and kind of giving a little more context into his past. When we saw Ashtray hit Cal over the head and say "dial, bitch," like that sort of stuff was awesome. But to kind of agree with what Jack was saying, I think there was a lot of filler. Lexi's little fantasy of being like a movie director, I just don't think, it really added a whole lot to the overall narrative.
I voted it a 9. I couldn't give it a 10 because it wasn't perfect, but it was a really, really, really good episode, well written. There was a lot of penises though, where I was like, okay, they can hold off on all the penis showing, but It was really good. I will deny.
Romeo's like, I don't know about that.
I mean, it was forced. Come on now, like
This is the most I've ever seen a penis.
How many times do you get penis shown? Always showing the girls and their tits and everything, baby.
That's true.
Let the
That
thing
is true.
fly. Let it fly, baby. Let it fly.
That is true. I said the same thing. I was like, we don't usually see this happen this often. So
Aisha, you said you've never seen so much penis?
In my life, though.
Hey, that was your quote, not mine.
I said on the show. But I don't like the way penises look, so that's why I'm just like, can we stop looking at them?
And I voted it a 10. And the second episode, I think we said it was a bit scattered all over the place. So I think this kind of brought me back to the regular or the typical storytelling of Euphoria. And I also think this episode had two of the best lines ever with, what was her name, Faye, saying, you know, do you and your son fuck people together? And then also, we didn't talk about the scene where all the girls are in the bathroom and they're talking about Oklahoma. And she's like, bitch, do you, like, what did she say?
You better be joking.
Better be joking. I thought that was just great. So I really enjoyed a lot of moments of this episode.
All right, well, that concludes today's discussion on season 2, episode 3 of Euphoria. Come back next week to hear what some of these panelists and more have to say about episode 4. I would like to thank the panelists for giving me their time tonight, and to the viewers watching at home, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are also on the podcast app, so type "Who Needs a Film Critic" to get all the episodes downloaded straight to your phone. That's all for now. Good night.